Well, there's a part of it that I don't think you know, which is that Howard wanted me to join NTL almost a decade, I think, before I did. And I had applied, but back then, of course, you had to be sponsored. And I had not worked with anybody else in NTL other than Howard. And Howard,
Right.
not being particularly political in his thinking, didn't have somebody else sponsor so that he could talk about my work.
Okay.
So I actually got rejected the very first time I applied to NTL. And being me, I said, well, that takes care of that. And about almost a decade later, I think, he said, please, by this time we had been working together quite regularly. He said, please, I'd really like you to join. And so I did. I went through the long process of the application at that time. And so that was like, I don't remember the exact year, but it was in the mid to late 80s. And one of my favorite stories is a summer when Charlie and Edie Seashore were doing one program, and Howard and I were doing something that we used to do around training folks to do socio-technical systems work, and we had real clients. And so, and I was the dean. So I was standing there at the front of the room introducing myself. And I said, now, 25 years ago today, I actually met Howard out there under that tree. And we have been working together and actually partnering together almost ever since. I said, no, I'm not going to make that promise that that's going to happen for you. And Charlie Seashore, of course, pipes up from the back of the room and he says, I can do better than that, and tells his story about how he came to a lab and was told by Edie, you can just share very authentically because you're never going to see anybody in this lab again. And then, of course, if there's anybody who watches this and doesn't know, they then had a lifelong partnership and marriage that was very beautiful. So that was my first memory of Bethel, was actually meeting Howard. He was the dean of the lab that I took. Back then, they were 2-week labs with the weekend off. And he wasn't my trainer, but he was the dean of a 60-person lab. And I got the chance to see him work one day, group on group. And I thought to myself, I was very arrogant back then, and I thought, I could really learn a lot from him. So I'm going to skip ahead six months, and I got a call from NTL asking me, excuse me, if I would take part in a project, a cinema verite project that was sponsored by FDA, getting people together to talk about their drug-related issues and also prevention of drugs. And I said, oh, no, don't bother me. I don't have time to do that. And then the person said, well, it's a free weekend of training with NTL. And I said, oh, well, who's doing it? And she said, Howard Lamb and Mandy Lerner. And I said, all right, I'll do it. So that was actually the first time I worked with Howard. And at the end of the weekend, I said to him, you know, when I grow up, I think I want to be a member of NTL. I want to do this kind of work. And who are the people that I should talk with? And he did this big Cheshire grin and he said, well, I'm on the central staff, so do keep in touch with me. And I didn't. I went back to graduate school, and 2.5 years later, I wrote him a "you won't remember me" but letter.
Yeah.
And we met. We had a lunch together, and I told him I really would like to intern with him. And after that, actually, I got a project with the Department of Oak Rehab in Virginia, And that was our first project together. And then from then on,
Whoa.
we did all kinds of projects through NTL and on our own. So that was the beginning. And as far as my history with NTL, I think that, and I want to say this for others, I think that there are those of us who are willing to just sort of assert ourselves and say, I'd like to be a part of that. And so I found NTL very inclusive right from the start, because I'm one of those people.
Okay.
And I have tried to do that with others over the years. As people have come into the organization, I've really tried to invite them to be parts of whatever I was working with. So I want anybody who's listening to this to know the way you become a part of the in-group in NTL is to put yourself in. And I think you've done that too. So
I've done a little bit of that.
Yeah.
I've done a little bit of that.
So I've chaired various committees of all kinds for quite a few years. I was the chair of a board committee at that time that was the Program Advisory Committee.
Yeah.
And we looked at what programs we needed to develop and how they should be developed and so forth. And I've always been very interested in fact, the reason I joined NTL was to do human interaction labs. I did most of my OD work outside of NTL, actually.
Okay.
But to me, to be able to do T groups was heavenly. So a lot of my efforts have always gone into learning as much as I can as a trainer. And also I served, I think, for 4 or 5 years as the co-steward and steward of the HI lab, the core labs. And there's been a few other committees too. So one of the highlights for me,
yes,
if I can get into
I would love to hear those.
Yeah,
Yes.
I was thinking of that because there have been so many, but one of the highlights goes back to the early 2000s, or maybe the late 90s, when Ted Schutte was in charge of reorganizing, redesigning the OD track.
Okay.
And he got together folks who had served as deans for the various programs in the track. And NTL paid for us our expenses, no fees, to spend a weekend in Bethel.
Oh.
And it was, I was talking to Ted today, and we were saying for both of us, that's still one of the highlights, because it was the most incredibly collaborative group. And we were just so divergent in our thinking, and we could go wherever we wanted to do to come up with the best OD track program possible. And it was one of those times when, I mean, I think a lot of us in NTL have very healthy egos, but it was one of those times when we really just put our egos aside and listened deeply to each other and built on each other's ideas. And at the end of the weekend, we just all felt so thrilled with what we had accomplished. So that was one real highlight. And another.
Before you go into another, can I ask a question about that weekend?
Sure.
Yeah. Because I know there's something about NTL about how we communicate with each other and how we establish those really wonderful, heartwarming, authentic relationships. And there's also a part of it where we learn about ourselves. And I was wondering, from that weekend, did you have any epiphany about Ries Lamb?
Oh, yes. One of the things for me was to, it was still early enough in my career with NTL. So it was one of those weekends when I was so appreciative to realize that my thinking and ideas were really very much respected and appreciated. So I think it was a weekend where I grew a little more into myself as a professional.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you for asking that. I hadn't thought
No,
about that.
no, thank you.
And then, well, that sort of leads into this next. I was thinking,
Yes.
there were 3 in a row. There were 3 NTL annual meetings. And I don't remember the order in which the keynote speakers were there, but one of them was Louise Diamond sharing about peace building. One of them was Carolyn Lukensmeyer sharing about her town hall experiences. And the third was Anastasia Bukashe talking about her experiences in carrying on her dad's work in South Africa. And every year I got so inspired and so excited about what was happening. So first I did the peace building course with Louise. And then actually, after I learned it, I actually offered it online as part of her team. And then I learned what Carolyn Lukensmeyer process was like for the town hall. And then I worked on a team with an NTL team with the DC budget process. Mayor Anthony Williams, for 2 years, we did Carolyn's process with that. And then with Anastasia, I got very excited about what she was doing and just offered to be sort of an informal sounding board. So those 3 years in a row, I was so excited and inspired and what's the word, exposed to so many different kinds of OD activities. And then they became part of what I could do as well. So talk about inspiration and learning. Some of those annual meetings were incredible. So.
Yeah. Okay. You know, some people talk about, and I apologize because I'm not going to follow the script precisely as it is. I much rather this flow as a conversation like we do at NTL. So one of the things that occurs, we all belong to NTL, but we all carry a part of NTL within us.
Yes.
The NTL, some people consider it in gestalt terms, the NTL in the mind. What would be your picture of NTL in your mind?
The NTL picture in my mind is of a group of colleagues who value authenticity and integrity and having deep, meaningful conversations and relationships with each other and taking what they learn from the experience. And there's an expression in Native American practices in terms of the giveaway. And so we give away what we learn and how we develop ourselves with each other. And we are able to give away that gift to create individuals who can contribute in so many ways to social justice and just a better world in all ways. So that's the NTL in my mind. And there's also part of it is the long history of collaborative and collegial relationships. You know, the Washington Area Local Learning Group, which was founded by Ted Schutte and Howard and me, and then Jim Henkelman-Barn joined us as one of the key movers. That group has been meeting for 17 years.
Whoa.
And we have way back, we met monthly, and we met at each other's homes. We would have a program which would usually be one of us who were, it was almost like the seminars, the morning sunrise seminars. So we wanted to develop an idea and we would get feedback from each other, or sometimes it was something that we were actually quite adept at and we would share it. So my goodness, we did cultural competency meetings. We did meetings on DEI, and we did any subject you can think of over the years. We actually would have a program from 2 to 5 in the afternoon. And then whoever's home we were in would serve a dinner. And there were typically anywhere from 10 to 14 of us who were the most foundational members, and then others would come in and move out. But I think of those relationships, I mean, 17 years of meeting. Now, the last 5, 6 years, we have not met as often, but we do meet quarterly. And at this point, what we've done is we open our programs to any members in NTL, and then we just have an hour's worth of check-in at the beginning. So that's been a very special kind of, and that's been sort of like a mini NTL in my mind.
Okay. There's something about check-ins that seems to be uniquely NTLs. Could you make a comment about that?
Well, it's so interesting because I do know a couple of NTLers who say, I'll join you after the check-in. And for those who are familiar with Myers-Briggs, I think they're mainly NTs.
Right, okay.
But what has happened for us, especially in the Washington Area Local Learning Group, is that there have been quite deep check-ins where we have shared whatever was going on that was troublesome for us. We know about each other's families. And what I like to do with other groups, not the Washington Area Local Learning Group, but I love to just have a specific question to ask. And I think, what's one thing that's happened for you this week that has really inspired you? So provocative questions that get us thinking about something other than, okay, so yesterday I went, shopping or whatever. And they are a way, if they're used well, I think they're a way of getting people into deeper dialogue with each other.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. I want you to know that just listening to you, not only is it inspiring, it is like I'm fulfilling one of my developmental needs, just listening to you. So thank you.
Oh, that's so sweet. I want to mention a recent experience too, because some of what I talked about are more historic. And I want to say that I've had 2 just really wonderful experiences within the last couple of years in terms of collaboration and collegiality. And one of them was an outgrowth of the Core Lab hubs had I think it was a 5-hour or a 6-hour conference last August. And many ideas came up about what could be developed. And I do acknowledge that a lot of us in NTL are extremely busy. We have our own careers and we get very enthusiastic and we're not so great at follow-up. But there are other cases where some really good follow-up happens. And one of the things was just actually 3 things. One was a small committee that developed a role that I think has been missing in NTL called the SAGE role. And we now actually have a process by which any member who feels that they have the experience and the qualifications can put themselves into this SAGE role file. We have a structure. I mean, you fill out a application, what kinds of ways you can be helpful. And the purpose is to be a resource to newer deans and trainers in our T group, in our HIL programs. And it was a lovely collaboration of several of us just recently. And Carmen Lane volunteered to administer the process. And then another one was, we felt that we needed to, what should I say, restructure our entry-level requirements to do the training of trainer programs that I dean. And
Yes.
And so again, a small group, 4 or 5 of us, worked on that, came up with some excellent requirements. And both of those groups, the meetings were, they just flowed. They were well organized. We each listened well to each other, and they were extremely productive. And now the latest one, which is even more fun because it's so global, we have been developing what we're calling a quickie guide, QWIKI, quickie guide to offering human interaction labs. And so we have a compendium of all the dean's reports from the various virtual HI labs that have been offered. And so there's a group of us that includes Walt Hopkins from Scotland and Lisa Latte from Austria. And Bwari Ngudka from India. And then Alan Klein and Patricia Williams, and I'm leaving somebody out. Oh, Anita Basine and me. And we're almost ready to be finished with it. And Alan Klein, I didn't say Alan's helping us technically. So, I mean, here we've been able to find times for meetings, and everybody has contributed stuff and left our ideas open, invited authorship from others. So I'm really very pleased with how that's gone too.
Okay. So you have a particular closeness to the core labs and the AHIs and the different incarnations of the AHIs. Can you offer a comment on what you think AHIs and human interaction labs offer the world?
Oh, I don't believe that there's any other experience that offers people as much of an opportunity. They have to take it, but the opportunity to learn deeply about yourself, to understand more about how it is you're coming across with people. Your intention may be A, and the way you're coming across is B. And when an HIL is taken advantage of in the way my hope is it will be, I think people not only learn deeply about how to have their have the impact of their behavior align with their intention, but I also think they learn about social justice and diversity, equity, inclusion dynamics in the most real way that's possible. Lessons that just stick with you forever, as opposed to a check off the box 2-hour training in some corporate setting. I think they learn about group dynamics and what are the different roles that people play in groups. So I think it's just one of the most profoundly developmental experiences that anybody can have. And my wish was that everybody in this entire world could take an HI lab, and I think we'd be in a very different place from where we are. I mean that very, very sincerely.
Okay, okay. When you think of NTL, and especially this NTL in the mind, and all that we are and all that you are, what do you most love about NTL? What do you value about NTL?
Oh, my relationships with people like you.
Okay.
I would say, I'd say three things. The first and foremost is the relationships I have. Because of our the ways in which in the past our values have guided us to bring in diverse groups. I have such deep, honest relationships with Blacks and people of color who have taught me so much because we talk honestly with each other. I value that so much. And I value all of my white colleagues too. There's such deep relationships that I have with NTL members. So that always comes up first. The second thing is our values. I think as an organization, I don't think we always practice and demonstrate our values, but when we do, I think we can be a leader for the world, really. I mean, I think what we aspire to in terms of our social justice values and our values around creating healthy individuals in healthy organizations. I think that part of it is as important. And when we are at our best, I think we can do that. And I think the third thing is just around my own, my professional development, the different aspects of OD that I have been exposed to and learned from, and the personal development that never goes away. I mean, I think that will, every day that I'm a member of NTL, there is some kind of learning. So.
No, I can understand that. And there are many people who think of NTL as a learning community.
Yeah.
And I keep wondering, what is it about this learning community that you see valuable, or that you appreciate a lot?
Well, I think first, in order to take advantage of the fact that we can be a learning community, there needs to be humility and putting aside of worries about competence, etc. And when that can be done, I think, I think I've shared some experiences where personally, each one of us has been in a space where we can provide different perspectives, because we do come from so many different experiential backgrounds. And we can, I think there's a quality of deep listening when we're at our best, that we can take things in and learn from them in a very facile way. I mean, I think about myself, I don't think of myself as an academician. I think of myself as a world-class practitioner who learns from the experience as well as from the reading. But I have learned from so many people in NTL what I don't think I would have learned in books. So being who I am. And so I think that for me, because because I value learning, and I have enough feeling of self-confidence, I can put aside the ego stuff, which I have plenty of, but I can put aside and be a learner with you and truly be eager to hear what you have to say. And I think there are so many of us in NTL who can do that.
And what would you say learning means to you?
Growing,
Okay.
having constantly having, what's the word I want? Expansion. One of the things that I have been very aware of lately, and one of the things that I have found very valuable and haven't spoken about yet, is the experiment we're doing in terms of advanced drop-in tea groups on Wednesdays. 2
Yes.
hours of drop-in tea groups. And one of the things I am so aware of each week is expansion. Expansion of my assumptions, expansion of my perspectives, just expansion of how I am doing myself in the world. It's just been incredible.
Okay. Do you want to do a brief advert for the drop-in tea groups now?
Sure. They are open to any NTL members who, I don't know that you even have to have had a lab. I think it would help
Okay.
if you had a core
Yeah.
lab. And it's truly drop in. You can look in the core lab in the channel, the core lab channel in Slack, and you can find the link. And we meet every Wednesday from 11:30 to 1:30 East Coast time.
Okay.
And truly, it is drop-in. I mean, sometimes people will be all new, and other times they'll be the same folks that you've seen. And all of us have had some experience with tea groups, so we understand what will happen. And it's been a small group. There's been maybe 6 to 10 people. And all of us are saying how much we're learning from it and how we wish that more people were a part of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. About
Come
yourself.
join us.
I'm thinking of it seriously. I'm seriously thinking about it. I think I need to open more of my NTL emails.
Yeah.
I really think I need to do that. So I want to focus on you for a while, and without really and truly, without being humble. When you think of Ries Lamb, what is it? What is it you value about Ries Lamb?
Well, especially
Maybe
as an NTLer.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the very first thing is, I think I'm compassionate. And I think I am able to listen deeply and hear many different perspectives. And I don't necessarily think that there's a truth in most things. I think there are all the truths. I think I'm very good at facilitating people to discuss their truths and to look for consensus. I think I'm very good at chairing and leading task types of groups to get them to produce something. I think there are a few people who would say maybe I'm too task oriented sometimes. I believe in shared leadership. I think I'm very efficient, actually, organized and efficient, and very, very dedicated to achieving outcomes and results, as opposed to letting things slide. So those are some of the things that come up for me. I think I think I have a lot of integrity. I do think that.
Can I also add your brilliance?
Oh,
Your brilliance, your tremendous technical skill, or just around running interventions, and I don't overlook
you
those
know,
things.
that, thank you, Lennox. And you know, remember I said earlier that I grew into myself a little from the way it is so, it's so humbling and so meaningful to me to hear you use the word brilliance. I don't think of myself that way. So it's very meaningful to me.
No, to your heart, I mean it absolutely. There's no kind of conditions around that. So when you think of NTL, and like all we have discussed, and all the experiences you have had.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Do you need to take that?
Yeah, I have to. I can't turn it off. Hi, Anita. Can I call you back? Okay, thanks. Sorry.
Yes. No. What do you see? What stands out for you about NTL in the way it lives its mission, the way it lives its vision, the way it lives its values, in a world today where we see so many divergencies occurring with regards to things like values and mission and vision and integrity? Yes, just what stands out for you?
Well, what comes up for me are two things that I wish so much we could do. One is finding ways to offer our core lab programs at a much reduced rate to individuals, groups, communities, whole communities engaged in any kind of work that contributes to the world.
Yeah.
And the other thing, and I don't know how to do this, but I keep thinking about it. I wish we had a way to use our core technology to develop new programs that would address the political polarization at the community level. I think of people like Carolyn Lukensmeyer and the work she did. And I know she had an institute for civil discourse.
Yes.
We are so desperately, desperately in need of that in this country. And I think NTL has the capacity to offer, but I don't know how to put that together.
Okay. And that's where the collaboration comes in.
Yes.
That's where the collaboration comes in. Yeah. I want to pause and shift a bit, if I may. And I don't want to create any trauma for you or anything, but you know, I would love us to channel Howard a bit. And if Howard was here, what would you think he would say about all of this?
Howard had such a wonderful capacity to disassociate himself from those things that he had no control over.
Okay.
And I mean, he was quite Buddhist. And I think what has been happening in NTL over the last few years would have would have had Howard feel distanced from NTL
Mhm. Mhm.
because it wouldn't be the same NTL
Mhm.
that he knew for so many years. I think he would be very, very eager to find a way to do what we were just
Mhm.
talking about a couple of minutes ago, which would be to
Yeah.
bring back that sense of how valuable the T groups are,
Mhm.
the HILs are for everybody,
Mhm.
and how could we do something that would make a difference again.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay.
So I think he still would be absolutely in love with the Wall group, the WALLG
Mhm.
group, and with his relationships with NTL. I don't think he would ever miss an annual meeting.
Okay.
Um, and he would be wanting to see us do ourselves more in the ways that we used to do ourselves.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for leaning into that question.
Yeah.
I want to go to a kind of a more kind of conceptual question, because you have an amazing amount of experience and knowledge and skill as a T group trainer, a trainer of trainers who do T groups. Could you just comment on what you would see as the the really distinguishing qualities of a excellent T group trainer?
Um, well, I think there are 4 distinct areas, which is, by the way, what we use as a matrix to look at competencies.
Okay.
One of them is truly the T group facilitation, the ability to create a container in which people are willing to take risks and know that they will not be pushed past the place that is comfortable for them, that they have the
Mhm.
ultimate responsibility. Um, and so there's all the skills involved in being able to track what's happening and to be aware simultaneously, if it's possible, of what's happening at an individual level, an interpersonal level, a group level, a meta level.
Yeah.
I also think it helps to be something of an air traffic controller, where you can keep track of,
Mhm.
as the Gestalt would say, a unit of work. Is that complete? And then who else has a unit of work that they've started on? So those are some of the skills that come under the competency area is T group facilitation. And those are some of the skills that come
Mhm.
in there. I think the second area is truly knowing your own social group identities
Mhm.
and the biases that you bring with you, and being able to to track and facilitate the diversity, equity, inclusion dynamics that are happening. For me as a white woman, to acknowledge I do not know, and I never will know what your experience is as a Black man,
Mhm.
and to be in a place of non-judgmentalness,
Mhm.
non-blaming, non-shaming, but truly to be in a curious place where we learn from each other about those dynamics and how we can relate with each other effectively. So those are some of the skills that come in there. A third area is being able to design and deliver experiential learning sessions, the community learning sessions that happen, because when you're in a T group, especially if it's the first time you've done it,
Mhm.
you need a little help with what's going on
Mhm, mhm,
conceptually.
mhm,
And
mhm,
so to be able to present in an understandable and dynamic way and engage the group and stay with them to know what they need at a particular time
mhm,
in order to move the group forward. And then the final area, which I think we put more of an emphasis on now than we did in the times when we didn't have the professional work conference. But the fourth area is being aware of, knowing how to hopefully prevent, and being able to manage any severe distress reactions. So a lot of that is being able to, again, stay with the group and to understand when somebody is in the sweet spot of being
mhm,
uncomfortable, but not feeling unsafe,
mhm,
and able to say things like, have you had enough for right now? Do you need a break?
mhm,
Knowing how to get, just even have people breathe with you if they get extra
mhm,
stressed, and knowing how to manage the group when somebody has any kind of uh, severe distress reaction. So we spend as much time on that fourth area too now. And
mhm,
the program is now pretty much an 8-month program. And each of the competencies has a month and a half, and then we have the in-person practicum. So I got kind of technical there, but I think that does help explain
yes.
what we're looking for, what we're trying to make happen.
Yes, yes. And one of the reasons that I was asking that question is that I wanted it on record, um, that there there's a technical part to this, there's a competency part to this, but it also speaks to the science that we do.
Mm,
Um,
yes.
you know, some people think that facilitation is pure artistry. No.
Yeah. Hmm.
Mhm.
A great deal of theoretical and important uh, articles that have been written
Mhm.
that are part of what an effective trainer
Mhm. Okay.
has as their background.
Yeah. How do you think? I'm thinking now about as not just about the pandemic and COVID and things having to move virtually. Um, but do you think the NTL methodology, the NTL technology, is adaptable? Is an adaptable medium for things like virtual learning and that sort of stuff?
Absolutely, absolutely. And we have several people in NTL who have done quite a bit with this. Gwen Wilkes Sterling has written a book
Mhm.
about it. Joan Scarrett has done a lot of research.
Mhm.
And we now, as a membership organization, think we're up to, I think we've done 4 virtual HI labs, and we've done some advanced T group virtually for ourselves. It definitely involves different competencies.
Mhm.
A couple of them that we've identified as different are
Oh.
um, contexting, that there is so
Okay.
much more that has to be said about the different levels of existence. Like you and I are talking right now, I'm aware of my surroundings, you're aware of your surroundings.
Mhm.
We are not able to feel each other's physical energy, but we
Mhm.
can maintain eye contact, etc. So one of the things we're writing a little about in the quickie guide is how do you context. Another one is, what do we call it? Container creating. We are acknowledging that there's no such thing as keeping another person psychologically safe. What we can do
Mhm.
is to focus on the group container and create conditions that enable each person to create their own sense of boundaries and self-management and risk. So those are a couple of them. That I think there are also some different things to be aware of in terms of clinical considerations. You know, if somebody has any kind of severe stress reaction, they can just press a button and you don't know what's happened to them. Whereas if you're face to face, you can be with them. So there are definitely different things to be mindful about, but I think we're working on that. And I think we're doing a good job of coming up with what are those special circumstances and how do we learn what we need to know for that. I think virtual learning and virtual HILs, I think they will continue forever. I hope.
Yes, I hope so too. I hope so too, really and truly. It's wonderful not having to climb on planes and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, well, I like the face-to-face too. I'm not saying in place of, I'm saying also.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Oh, the also is important.
Yeah.
When you think about the future that NTL faces, and what we need to continue to respond to future realities and challenges the way we have responded to past realities and challenges, do you have a wish or an aspiration or hope or a desire for NTL that you would like to mention?
Well, I think the major things are what I said a little earlier.
So that we could continue to have a significant impact.
Well, I think part of it is working with either a university or a foundation so that we can get our programs to more people at very reduced rates. And also what I said earlier about, and maybe you know, the idea of partnering in order to come up with what would it be that we could do as a program around political polarization? What is it that could happen? And it's not just political. I mean, it's all the divisiveness in the country. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. So somehow people now have made divisiveness an advantage,
Right.
rather than something that we have to overcome.
Yeah. So I think that's my biggest wish. Yeah.
Okay. As you is, but if there were some things you just want to say for posterity, for let it be captured once and for all. In the words of Ries Lamb, or in the experiences or from the experiences of Ries Lamb, and it could be something very, very simple. Yeah. But what would that voice say?
It would be very simple, Lennox. It would be for every one of us in NTL to practice what we know, to truly engage with each other in the ways that we say our programs teach people to engage with each other. Right. And again, I'll come back to a word I used a long time ago in this. It seems like we've talked for a very long time. And that word is to find more compassion for both ourselves and each other. Yeah. So it is simple.
Well, yes, I would agree with you that it is simple and timeless.
Yeah. And that and
So,
NTL values are timeless.
okay.
They are
Yes.
timeless indeed. Yeah.